Good morning, fifth grade. This is Mrs. Mann, and I am here today to talk to you guys about the beginning, the middle, and the end of a fantasy reading. We've been learning all sorts of things about fantasy for the last week. We've talked about setting, what's happening, characters, and all the different important parts of our stories. So now we're going to talk about the beginning, the middle, and the end, and what that means and what we can do with that information when we know what's happening at the beginning, the middle, and the end of our text. So it's going to be organized pretty much how it's been organized. We're going to kind of talk about it. We're going to look at an example, and then you guys are going to write about a specific text that we're going to read together. So I want you to take a moment and go and get a piece of paper, a pencil, or your notebook, and just so you can take a couple little notes while we're going, so when you have to do this later on, you have notes to look back at to know what you need to be doing or knowing what the different parts represent. Okay, so you're able to describe the beginning, the middle, and the end of a story. So in the beginning, you're introduced to characters, and there's a setting. We've talked about that. How based on the characters, what are their character traits? What is the character doing? Where are they? What's happening? Then when you get to the middle, there's things that are happening with those characters. There's a problem. And then when there's a problem, there tends to be a solution, which happens at the end. So how are the characters different than they were at the beginning of the story? As you sequence those, it is very important to have your information in the correct order. So one thing I would like you to pause, and I would like you to write BME, beginning, middle, and end. And I'd like you to put a little bit of a blurb next to each of those letters to tell what is important or what you might learn at that part of the story. So in the beginning, you might learn about the characters. In the middle, what's happening with the characters, putting that problem. And at the end, the solution. The parts that are in color-coded here are the parts that are important for you to remember. That in the beginning, you're introduced to characters, and there's a setting. In the middle, something's happening. There's a problem. And at the end, there's a solution. Good readers are able to sequence the events in the story to retell them. Okay, so you have to be able to, and you have to, when you're sequencing them, they have to be in order. You have to have it from going chronologically what was happening in the story. You cannot bounce around. So it's very important to have that part. Okay, so we're thinking about today what a summary is. I want you to take a moment in your brain and think about what is a summary. A summary is a short retelling of the main parts of a story. Please write this down in your notebook, that a summary is a short retelling of the main parts of a story. So when you're retelling somebody, you need to be touching on what happened in the beginning of the story, what happened in the middle of that story, and what happened at the end. You cannot just retell what happened at the end. You need to have it in order of what the main parts of that story were, okay? So you're retelling so that other readers can write a summary or retell what happened by telling others about the different stories they have read. When we summarize, we tell the main parts from the beginning, the middle, and the end of our story. There are information about all those different pieces. And it is important that we tell the main parts of the story in order. We've talked about that. You have to have it in order. So we're able to easily pull out the information that we want our readers to understand. And then when we have the parts and we have pieces from the beginning, the middle, and the end of a story, we are able to write the main idea of the story as a whole. So all the different parts and pieces can go together to be our main idea. Okay? So we are going to listen to how to retell a story for kids. And as you're listening, I want you to be able to pull out the different pieces, the beginning, the middle, and the end, that are represented in this example.
How to retell a story. Retell means to tell the most important parts of a story from beginning to end. We often retell stories to show that we understood it. Sometimes we retell a story just for fun because we want to tell our friends about it. When you retell a story, you can't retell everything. You only retell the most important parts. So, what is important? Usually, the most important parts are the characters, the setting, and the big events that happen in the story. Have you heard the story Goldilocks and the Three Bears? I'm going to retell it to you. Goldilocks and the Three Bears is a story about a girl named Goldilocks who goes for a walk in the forest. In the beginning, the bears left their house to go for a walk while their porridge cooled. Next, Goldilocks came to their house, and she ate their porridge, sat in their chairs, and then fell asleep in one of their beds. In the end, the bears came home and scared Goldilocks. She jumped out of bed and ran away. My retelling included the characters, the setting, and the most important events from the beginning, middle, and end. Now,
All right, guys, I want you to write down the big parts, the important things to have in your retell. The characters, the setting, the beginning, the middle, and the end. Write that down in your notebook so that when you go back and are retelling the story that we're going to read, that you have what you need to have in your retell.
you can practice retelling a story on your own. Thanks for watching. Check out other.
All right. So when you're retelling, you're telling about all of the different important parts that happen in that story, starting from the beginning and then going in. In Goldilocks, it started at the very beginning, what happened in the very beginning, and then what happened next, and then in the end. You see that they also had transition words in there to help you to know when they were transitioning to a different part of the story. That's very important. So making sure that you have the characters, the setting, and you have information from all three parts of your story. So together we are going to read Three Wishes. I hate waiting for my mom when she comes here, Logan complained to his friend Landon. My mother takes forever to make up her mind deciding what things she needs to have this week from the farmer's market, he said as he kicked a pebble. I know, but at least we are together. My dad is the same way, Landon responded. He kicked a bottle that was in the path. Hey, watch it, a voice cried out. The boys looked at each other. Who said that? Logan asked. I did, in here, the same voice replied. In where? Landon asked, confused. Down here in the bottle. The boys bent down and picked up the bottle. Inside, sure enough, was a small figure. Are you a genie? Logan asked. That's what it says on my resume, laughed the genie. My name is Rav, and I am a genie. And since you found me, you're entitled to 3 wishes. How did you get in there? Well, I was banished to the bottle after I upset the queen. She told me that I would live forever in one. But apparently, she didn't specify what kind of bottle, so I ended up in a soda bottle, down here in a path, out of all things a farmer's market, Rav said indignantly. So, tell me, boys, what do you wish for? This is hard. What can we wish for? Logan and Landon looked at each other, thinking hard about what they could wish for. Well, we should be responsible with these wishes. We can't wish for anything too big. There's trouble with those kinds of wishes, Landon said. Right. So let's think of things that we could easily do without. I know, homework. How do I do this? Logan asked Rav. While Landon nodded, looking bored, Rav said, You say, I wish, followed by the wish. Okay, we wish for no more homework ever, Logan said boldly. Done. You will never have another homework assignment as long as you live. You have 2 left. The boys were sitting on a bench looking out over the market. They could see their parents walking around with their reusable bags and smiling. They seemed to really be enjoying themselves. Landon looked at Logan and said, It would be nice if they could find happiness. I want to be happy too. And I don't want to go through what they did. Landon looked sad for a moment. And Logan sighed deeply. I agree. They have had it rough. Maybe this wish should be for them. Landon nodded and Logan spoke loudly. We wish for our parents to be happy, as well as us in the future. Okay, boys, you got it. Last one. Rav looked around, humming softly to himself. I like you boys. I have never met anyone who didn't wish for all the glitz and glamour. You are good people. The boys looked at each other again. In their secret look, Logan said, Rav, we wish you to be free. No more living in a bottle. Rav grinned ear to ear and said, Wish granted. Thank you for your generosity, boys. I am deeply humbled. And with that, Rav disappeared. All right, I want you guys to be thinking about who are the characters that we are introduced into the story and what is the setting and what happened at the beginning and the middle and the end of this text that we just read together. So what we're going to do is you have been sent in your classwork tab a beginning, middle, and end of for you to use to do this task. So readers will describe the beginning, the middle, and the end of a fantasy story so that they can retell the main idea. So as you'll see, there are 3 different columns, 3 different boxes for each the beginning, the middle, and the end. And what you're going to do is you're going to fill in what happened at the very beginning. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do the first box together. And then once you fill in that box, you're going to write the main idea, describing the main idea of the story in 1 to 2 sentences. You're going to use that to be able to tell us what the whole picture of the story was, okay? But making sure that you're using your different boxes to help you to know what to write for your main idea. Making sure that you use the notes, and then if you need to go back and re-listen to the story, you have it on the prior slides, okay? So making sure that you're using the text and you're using all the information that you were given. And remembering that in the different parts of a story, there are different things that are presented. So in the beginning, they tend to show and introduce you to the characters and the setting of the story. So if we were to think about this, we are going to go to here. And what happened? Where were we in the beginning of that story? Not we, but Logan and his friend Landon were at the farmer's market. So Logan and Landon were at the farmer's market. Okay? That is what you're doing. You're going to type in the different spaces, the different parts of the story that you are, as you're going through the story, from the beginning to the middle to the end. Making sure that you're putting enough information that you are able to see all of the progression of the story, right? So what was the problem, and then what was the solution? And then what was the main idea of this text? I hope that this makes sense to you guys. If you guys have any questions or trouble, please email your teacher, and I hope that you guys have a fabulous Monday.